Let's hop into our first story of tonight's show about Ontario MPP Rick Nicholls voting for anti-white bill, Bill 67. It is an article by Rick Nicholls in which he is apologizing for voting for it. Things I want to say about this, okay? It says here, as an MPP in Ontario, I've not been afraid to stand apart from the crowd. I said it was twang. He spells wrong incorrectly, but he means wrong. That was wrong for the government of Doug Ford to force people to be vaccinated or get fired. That stand got me booted from Ford's progressive conservative government. I don't regret it. Good came from it. I now sit as the first MPP for the Ontario Party, a choice that keeps my integrity intact. I know the good of standing apart from the crowd, but this week I was reminded of the regret that comes from following the group. On Thursday, I made a significant unintentional error when I voted in the Ontario Legislature for Bill 67, the Racial Equity in the Education System Act. My error was unintentional in that I read the bill incorrectly, not knowing that the language in it purports to say one thing but means something completely different. Like all citizens of Ontario, I abhor any treatment that denigrates or disadvantages someone because of their race. I find discrimination motivated by race, sex, or creed disgusting. Sounds like Joe Kent, doesn't it? When I voted in favor of the bill, I thought the bill stood against these things that I and my fellow Ontarians find evil. But it doesn't. In fact, it promotes them. No shit. Like most citizens of Ontario, I'm not very familiar with critical race theory, the new movement now being pushed into every school board and classroom by leftist activists. To win approval, the ideas of the movement are presented using the purposely misleading term, quote, anti-racism. Ironically, the actions promoted by the anti-racism of CRT are explicitly racist. Clearly, the ideas promoted in Bill 67 must be resisted. In fact, as a core policy, the Ontario Party will make it illegal for any educator or school administrator in our public system to teach that an individual, by virtue of their race or sex, is inherently privileged, racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or subconsciously. Come on, man. Come on, Jack. This is the issue with many of our politicians. How do you not know that Bill 67 and the term racial equity or critical race theory is anti-white? At this point, how do you read a bill like that? Alarm bells don't start going off. How is that something that, for one, you miss, but then two, you vote for? I don't get it. This is the issue when, you have these people like Dave Rubin or Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro or Viva Fry, certain subversive neocons that muddy the waters surrounding these issues, right? All of those people that I just named will never tell you the full truth. They are grifters, they are subversives, they are people that know what's going on, and they choose not to call things like Bill 67 or racial equity or anti-racist activism what it is. It's anti-white. Somebody that calls himself anti-racist, they're anti-white. And they get scared to talk about things like demographics. They get scared to talk about things like Roxham Road. They get scared to talk about things like the Great Replacement. They get scared to talk about things like white identity, which is very important. It is integral to our nation. And this bleeds over, to talks about Christianity as well. Politicians need to listen to the ones that are in tune with what's actually going on in the world. I don't have anything against Rick Nicholls. He's been okay as an MPP. But if you're going to be one of the people that we place upon a pedestal to represent us, we the people, the real conservatives, the real social conservatives, the real nationalists within provincial parliament, then you better be able to talk about the things that need to be talked about and know about these things, right? It's been going on for 7 years at this point? 7 years. This has been going on. Critical race theory is not a new thing. The fact that it's being talked about as some kind of new phenomenon is silly. Like most citizens of Ontario, I'm not very familiar with critical race theory, the new movement now being pushed into every school board and classroom by leftist activists. It's extremely silly. The anti-white agenda has been ongoing ever since before Donald Trump, and that's part of the reason why Donald Trump won. That's part of the reason why he was so successful. It's because white people voted for him. Disenfranchised white men and white families within America voted, turned out in droves, over 90% for Donald Trump, because he represented the core of America. If we want to change Canada, if we want to change Ontario, if we want to change our nation, and have federal politics or provincial politics actually represent us again, these topics have to be known about and they have to be talked about by our elected officials. This is going to be hard to forgive. Voting for a racial equity bill, the excuse that you didn't know. How do you not know? How do you not know about this? That just makes me think that the Ontario Party is incompetent. That just makes me think that people that are around guys like Derek Sloan or Rick Nicholls are incompetent. That's the thing that I really like about Randy Hillier. That's the thing I like about Maxime Bernier. They know. They know about this. They talk about stuff like this. They talk about lowering immigration. They talk about ending foreign aid. And like the sad thing is, it's going to be a bunch of boomers that are going to hop all over this. You know, this Rick Nicholls article, it was published in True North News. Not on our side. These people are not on our side. And you're going to get all these boomers. Did you guys see the Dave Rubin video about critical race theory? Then Rick Nicholls is going to go and he's going to watch a Dave Rubin video on critical race theory and how the libs are the real racists.
The left is far more racist than the right.
That's going to be his position. It's not any better. I don't know which one is worse, actually. Muddying the waters like these neocon subversive characters do. Talking about Dave Rubin, Lever Fry, Ben Shapiro, etc. Is that worse or just not knowing? Like, I don't know which one's worse. Both of them are terrible. I think that the subversive side is worse. It's worse to have a elected official muddying the waters talking about how the libs are the real racists and, you know, how, oh, I think that doesn't matter about your skin color, it doesn't matter about your sex or your gender, or it doesn't matter about your sexual preference.
Corporation avoid prosecution after it stole from some of Africa's poorest people. Doesn't mean all liberals are racist. Just because about a half dozen liberal MPs who are racial minorities have complained about his treatment of them does not mean that all liberals are racist.
We're all Canadians. We all deserve to be free. I think that's worse. It does more damage. It does a lot more damage to us. The real nationalists to real Canadians. Because it's not that simple. Saying, well, hey guys, the libs are the real racists. The libs are the real Nazis. You are playing within this leftist framework. You are playing within the framework that the liberals have created. If you're called a racist, if you're called a white supremacist, any of these things, you don't turn around and say, no, you're the white supremacist. They've created this framework to demonize the right wing. What are all these slanderous terms that are used against us that these neocons sling back? What do they all have in common? They demonize the right wing. They are demonizing authoritarianism. Liberalism is what got us into this mess in the first place, okay? We have to call it how it is. We need our elected officials to talk about these things. They can't be listening to people like Dave Rubin. They can't. The anti-white narrative has never been this prominent before.
There is no place in our country for discrimination driven by fear or misinformation.
They're passing bills provincially, federally. They're passing legislation that demonizes white people, that attacks Christianity, that attacks our freedom of speech as white people. Look at Bill C-36, federally. Do you think that they're going to go after Jagmeet Singh and his people for, you know, being terrorists in India? Do you think that they're going to go after Justin Trudeau for all the slanderous things that his bought and paid for fake media has said about myself or Jeremy McKenzie or Dr. Ricardo Duchesne or anybody else? Or do you think they're going to use these bills, which the wording in it talks about stuff like this? Do you think that they're going to use that against us? It's the latter. They're going to be using these things against us. Why? We are white, we are Christian, we are nationalists. We are real Canadians. It's not as simple as saying, wow, these kooky liberals and their tricky bills. Oh, I got fooled by those liberals again. Woe is me. That's basically what he's saying here. Oh, I got fooled. This bill isn't actually what it says it is. I got fooled, guys. I'm sorry.